And now, time for weekly show with a passionate India lover, chairman of ITV Gold and Parikh Worldwide Media. Get ready for loving sharing from physician, philanthropist, publisher, and India advocate in this week.
Hello, welcome everyone. I'm your host Aditi Lama, and this is This Week with Dr. Sudhir Parikh. He is the chairman of ITV Gold and Parikh Worldwide Media, and joining us today in the studio, live in person, is Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh. Welcome to the show again. Thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Thank you. Namaskar.
It's so great to have you because I have a lot of questions for you. There are two major things happening in the country, health-wise and politics-wise. So let's go right into it, doctor. First question to you has to be about, again, the Omicron variant as we've been discussing on the show. Today, big news came out from Pfizer. Pfizer is claiming that 3 doses will protect against the Omicron variant because it builds antibodies by a factor of 25. I would like to know what that exactly means and how valid do you think the statement is by Pfizer?
I think the statement is very valid because the statement came after their in-house or in-laboratory testing. So what happens is when you have first injection and second injection, that antibody declines after 6 months or 7 months or 8 months. And that time antibody titer is not that high. So once you give a booster, it goes up almost 25 times of the whatever antibody titer is there. And so more the antibody titer, the better protection against any kind of variant, including Omicron. So it is that's what it is. So when you give any vaccine, it creates a defensive wall against the virus. So when you give first and 2 injections, 2 dosage, there is wall against the original COVID virus and Delta variant. Now, because of this new variant, which is more mutated, if you give 3rd dose and the antibody jumps to another 25%, so total antibody, protective antibodies are very high, and therefore it is very effective.
Pfizer also, Dr. Parikh, has said that they are now already working on another vaccine if needed. Now my question to you is, do you think we'll need that?
Well, it's hard to say. Again, it's hard to predict because any viral pandemic, we don't know how long it remains. It then becomes epidemic, right? So, and we don't know how long it remains epidemic, and it all depends upon how the virus is. If everybody or 70% of the total world population gets vaccinated, then there may not be any need for that because then eventually there is no infection going around. Right now, there is infection going around because only less than 50% of the world population has been vaccinated.
Right.
And that's the problem.
And you know, Dr. Parikh, there's a fear that experts have, which is again about this getting these vaccines every 6 months, every 8 months. We cannot live like that, right?
No, I think we can live like that. I mean, every year we get flu vaccine. Every other year we can get pneumococcal vaccine for pneumonia. So that's a part of the medical preventive medicine.
Yeah.
So it's not. There's no fear. Word is wrong word. That's part of your, just like as a healthy person, you have to take vitamins, you have to do exercise, you have to do yoga, and you have to take vaccine.
In the medical community, what is the conversation on Omicron like right now? What are you talking
Well, I mean,
about?
right now we think that Omicron may not be that serious or that violent, and it may not make people that sick, but we don't know. It's too early because all this new variant takes 3 to 4 weeks before we can predict how bad it will be, because right now today our CDC is saying that just go and get the booster because it protects you, and just now England declared work from the home again. So both approach is different.
Yes.
Because they in England probably they are afraid that everybody will not go and get the booster. While in USA, our politics is little different because our constitution says that everybody has what you call self-right of taking vaccine or not taking vaccine.
Right.
And that complicates the thing. Actually, we cannot mandate people, but that is not good idea. I mean, in situation like pandemic is not a good idea. Everybody should get vaccine.
Exactly.
To protect themselves, protect others, and everybody.
So we are talking, you just mentioned the UK, and I had a question in regards to that. Just yesterday, Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, and he made the statement and announced it before they went remote in England, that Omicron is more transmissible. He's made that statement. Now, how do you respond to it? And I'd like to know, why is it so much more transmissible?
No, it is more transmittable, and it is more infectious because it has maximum mutation. So when any virus mutates more than 20, 30 normal mutation, this one is a 50 mutation. So of course it's more infectious, more easy to catch this infection. But what do you call, vaccine is the only answer.
Yeah.
So therefore it is infectious, but only what vaccine does not prevent the infection, but at least it prevents you are spreading the infection, and it prevents a serious illness and hospitalization and death.
So basically, it's less likely to end up in a hospital
Right.
if you get COVID if you've had the 3 shots.
Right.
And
And that's what vaccine is the only answer to this kind of pandemic.
yeah, and just talking about vaccine, doctor, on a global scale, President Biden, the Biden administration has announced that they're investing about $400 million in a global vaccine distribution initiative. It's targeting poor, low-income, and middle-income countries across the world. Now, my first question to you is, do you think this is enough money for the rest of the world that are struggling right now with vaccine access? And number 2, why do you think the U.S. needs to play such an important role in this distribution?
Well, it's not enough money, but it is something than nothing, right?
Right.
So it's not enough money for whole world to get the vaccination in $400 million. And but whatever it is help to the poor country, right?
Right.
And number 2, what was your second question?
And why do you think is it important that U.S. is taking such an important
because
role?
see, US is always the world leader, and US always kind of a superpower, so-called quote unquote.
Yeah.
And when you are superpower and you are a world leader, and you are richer than most of the countries, then it's your obligation to help the poorer people or less richer country during such a catastrophe.
You know, just following up to that, doctor, I have a question. When you are looking at this global distribution, and then you're looking at the fact that the United States still has the highest number of cases and deaths, if I'm right, in the world from COVID-19, do you think that is why also the US wants to participate in that, so that they make sure that the rest of the world is, vaccinated, the rest of the world is okay, so that we can also be okay?
No. I mean, no. I think it's the wrong way of looking at it. Why USA wants maximum people to get vaccinated, because vaccination is the only way to end this pandemic, scientifically speaking. So there is no other way out. So that's why USA, being a rich, resourceful country,
Right.
and has enough vaccination dosage, and therefore they want to reach out to the other people. Because if you don't do that, and if you vaccinated even 100% of the USA population, but if say other part of the world like Europe or South America or Africa, people are not vaccinated, and the world is so small now, very much interconnected. So those people are bound to come here, or we are bound to go there. And we again spread the thing. So the cycle goes on. So in order to break the cycle of the infection, I think maximum number of people should get vaccinated.
So this brings me to a question that has now become political. We're not sure why, but it's been a political issue since it began, and that is vaccine mandates. New York, as far as we know, soon will require all private sectors to implement COVID vaccine mandates. The mayor has come out, Mayor Bill de Blasio has come out and said that. He said it's the next step for New York to stay strong and stay tough against this virus, since we were really impacted by it for the first time. What do you have to say about that complicated situation with vaccine mandates? And do you, as a medical professional, do you think it would help us if there were more federal mandates on the vaccine at least?
Yes, because see, pandemic is a whole different situation. Even personally, I may not believe in the mandating anything because we are in the free country. Our constitution tells us that we have our own rights to what to do with ourselves, our body, our family, whatever. So mandate, quote unquote, mandate word is not very good word in America. But I think in pandemic, they should mandate certain people like police force, federal government, federal employee, healthcare employee, restaurant employee. They should. Otherwise, this pandemic never ends. So I think in this situation, I'm for kind of so-called mandate.
Yeah. And you have gotten your booster, right?
Yes.
Yes, which is amazing. You know, I now want to move to another topic of conversation here with you, Doctor, since I still have you here on the show with me. And it's on politics and it's on what's happening with the case of Dante Wright today. There's a hearing being held, and it is again a case of police brutality on innocent black men and, you know, loss of life. Now, what do you think the jury needs to do in this case? And following up to that, what do you think is the role of the Indian American community when we are talking about Black Lives Matter, when we are talking about empowering other minority communities? Where do we stand on that?
Well, I think jury should be impartial, it should be open-minded, and should listen to all the evidence available to them, and then they decide. They should not get biased against one side or other side. That's fundamental thing for
Right.
jury thing. About our Indian American, yes, we also be very alert about whole this thing because today we are talking about black victims, but tomorrow could be Indian American victims because we all are quote unquote outsider. And unfortunately, some part of this country, it's kind of look at the outsider different way.
Yeah.
So that's why we should be very alert. We should be united, and we should always fight for any injustice happening to us.
Right. And another topic that I'd like to discuss in politics would be this whole issue that we're hearing about Russia and Ukraine. There's a lot of military activity on one of the sides of the borders between Ukraine and Russia, and President Biden had a conversation with President Vladimir Putin just yesterday. What do you have to say about that interaction? And do you think threatening with sanctions, economic sanctions, is it enough to stop Russia if it is about to invade Ukraine? How are you looking at it?
Well, I mean, this Russia and NATO kind of conflict, it's a very serious conflict. But again, I'm glad that Russian President Putin and our President Biden is talking to each other.
Right.
So whenever people talk to each other or head of state talk to each other, usually you can avoid the catastrophic outcome.
Right.
And I'm sure what Russia's point of view is that they don't want NATO. Now Ukraine is an independent country, and they are more pro-NATO, and they want to join the NATO.
Yes.
So NATO group. So Russia doesn't want that because if they join the NATO group, then NATO means our Western NATO alliance will be on the doorstep of the Russia because Ukraine is next to the Russia. So that's what they don't want, and therefore they want NATO Ukraine to be kind of neutral zone, neither NATO nor Russia.
Yeah.
And we Western alliance wants Ukraine to be part of NATO. And I don't think there will be a serious conflict because if it happens, then so many countries will get involved, and I think any conflict has bad outcome.
Yes, definitely. And finally, I want to again continue talking on this. Last question for you. Russia has a very good relationship with India, and we often talk about India-US bilateral relationships on this show with you as well. Now, if there is a conflict between Russia and the US over this, of the NATO allies and what's happening with that, there is news that it could affect the relationships between India and the US as well because of the relation India is trying to have in weaponry with Russia. How do you look at that kind of connections, and how are you observing it?
It's complicated, but I think if I'm sure there will not be conflict between Russia and USA. But if there is a conflict, I'm sure India will be on the sideline, and is not the factor in that conflict, because that conflict will be like a third world war, So I don't think you don't have to stretch our imagination that far. And of course, India has relationship with both Russia and USA.
Yeah.
More and long time relation with the Russia, because we in the beginning we were kind of more pro Russia than pro USA, and actually we were a non-alliance group. It means ourselves and Yugoslavia and certain other countries were not connected with neither one. So I think India will be on the side. I mean, will be watching from the sideline.
Yeah.
India,
Not going to get involved.
No, not getting involved, and it's not going to affect India's. India may suffer a little bit if there is a war, but it will not affect India's relation with the USA or India's relation with the Russia, because those relation it's a mutual benefit relation.
Yeah.
For all the party involved. So it never happens.
Yes. Well, let's hope there is no war, because I don't think we need to see one in the world right now. There's enough happening with the pandemic. Thank you so much for your time today on your show this week with Padma Shri Dr. Sudhir Parikh, and I look forward to having a great chat with you.
I think I would like to give the message at the end. Always I would like to give message to my viewer that, dear friends, again, remember that this variant is very infectious, the new variant, and you must get the booster. And by having today's news tells us that scientifically booster will prevent serious infection, hospitalization, and the death. So please go ahead and get the booster vaccination to protect yourself, your family, your loved ones, and your friends. So thank you for joining us this week. God bless you. God bless America. God bless India. And God bless Indian American community. Goodbye.